Hey YouTube, so in the other, why they're ranked the way they are, what makes them strong, are they underranked, overranked, how they're going to play next season, what the meta is going to look like, so you can check that video out. And in that video I said we are now going to look at the next 51 plus Pokemon outside of, Pokemon outside of top 50 to see if there's any Pokemon that I think that you should build or at least think about that may be in the meta. So we're going to do that in this video, and we will start with Galarian Stunfisk. So Galarian Stunfisk, for those of you who have not been playing forever, was a very, very, very meta Pokemon for a long time. But then it got the Mudshot nerf and the Rock Slide nerf, so it kind of just fell off. Mudshot is still nerfed, but Rock Slide is buffed. But it's not jumping up to 52 rank just because Rock Slide got buffed. It's jumping up to 52 rank because of the way the meta is going to be next season. And as you can see right here, ground, steel, typing. So you have 4 weaknesses, and unfortunately those 4 weaknesses, there's going to be a lot of them, and fire got buffed this season, so you may actually see more fire too. So yes, fighting, fire, ground, water is out there. But you know what else is out there? Poison, that got buffed multiple seasons ago. You triple resist. Electric, the Denes and Morpekos that are out there, you double resist. Rock, all those SmackDown users and Carbinks that I mentioned, double resist. Bug, that got all those Fury Cutter users and Bug Bite users resisted. Dragon, that got buffed like crazy this season. Dragon Claw, Dragon Tail resist. Fairy, right? You're seeing a pattern here. Is getting in on the steel ground typing. So the Mudshot nerf lowered the energy that you get from it. So it still has Earthquake. Earthquake is a nice move. It does take 18 to get to the first one, 16 for the other two. Now with Rock Slide, you get a little more damage. It's always been a cover move for your like flyers, but it's still not going to be a great move. It's non-stab, 75 damage for 12 energy, so it's still not amazing, but it helps out. I think you get in. It's always had good stats: 172 defense, 172 stamina, 126 defense. Always had good stats. Always had great typing. Yes, there's a lot of weaknesses you need to cover, but you know how to team build for that. Well, if you don't, just hit the subscribe button. And Earthquake is still a good move despite it being a little slower. So I think with the way the meta is going to go, Steel is going to be everywhere. And a Steel that I said multiple times in the first video should be everywhere is a Sandslash, because it is also half ice. So not only are you getting the Steel that resists Dragon and Fairy, you are getting the ice that hits super effective against the dragons. I also mentioned that with an uptick in Steel, I predicted like you're going to see these. And because of that, you're going to see a lot more steals in general, and Talonflame, Scizor, because Scizor is like the main one and it's kind of risen in the ranking, so I expect to see a lot of that. So Sandslash with Ice Punch, Drill Run being able to hit against the steals, Ice Punch being able to hit against the dragons, recommending Shadow Claw. Now Shadow Claw is actually the same energy and same damage as Powder Snow, so you can go either way. Again, I think Shadow Claw is in anticipation of those steals. There's pretty much no grass this meta. We'll just kind of quickly search here. There is one grass Pokemon in the top 100, Cradily. So you don't really need to watch out for grass. In terms of flying, I know there's still a few, like Corviknight, but that's only neutral to ice anyways. Gyarados is neutral to ice because it is half water. So there are a couple flying and dragons that you can hit super effect against. But at the same time, there's also going to be a healthy dose of Ghost. Giratina, Corsola, Dusknoir, Jellicent, Golurk, Annihilape, Renorigas, Dusclops, yes, right? So a lot of ghosts that you can also hit super effective against. And at the same time, I expected there to be a lot of water. Empoleon, I mentioned in the video, is going to be probably the best safe swap in the meta. So you got Empoleon, you still have Lapras. Azumarill gets a tick up because of all the dragons. Jellicent's out there. Gastrodon is neutral because it's half ground. Lapras. So a lot of things would resist Powder Snow. So that is why I think it is recommending Shadow Claw. Do you have to use it? No. Just be aware that you may have a little trouble in the meta. But yeah, so good fast moves, good energy. 10 to an Ice Punch with the Shadow bonus here, 86. 12 to a Draw, 96. And again, once you're at that like 100 range and like the 10 to 12, you're doing pretty okay there. So between the spam here and just that Steel Ice coverage, yes, double weak to fighting, double weak to fire, you must cover those weaknesses when you use a Sandslash. But 9 resistances, many of them some of the buffed Pokemon over the last couple seasons here. So I expect a Sandslash to make its return. Coming to some of these other Pokemon, these Pokemon, Togedemaru, Clefable, were similarly like within like the top 60 last season too, and you're not seeing any of them. And there is no reason to build them. There's going to be way better fairies with the way Charm is going to play now, and there's going to be way better electric just in Dedenne and Morpeko, in my opinion. So I don't think there's a point to use Togedemaru or Clefable. Or Machamp again. Yes, you have Rock Slide coverage, and Rock Slide is now a bit better. But Shadow Machamp always cared about counter damage. Shadow Machamp doesn't care about your typings when you can go counter Cross Chop at a speedy pace, but Karate Chop just does not do the damage that counter does. So I don't think it's as strong there. Dodrio, again, this is one that people will have fun testing and using. It's a glass cannon, 143 attack here. And it only has flying moves. I just think that there's probably other flyers that have a little more coverage than just running something that just has straight flying moves. Drill Peck did get buffed too, but it's still only 84 damage even with stab. So I don't know. I'm not sold on Dodrio. Aurorus, same thing. Like, not same thing, but Aurorus definitely is going to have some play as the ice. Again, ice rock. Ice is going to do fantastic against the dragons, but the weaknesses, I've mentioned this before. You want, in general, you want like 1 or 2 resistances max. Weaknesses max. And if you're going into the 3 or 4 weaknesses, you better offset that with like 7 or 8 resistances and an insane moveset. So to have a 6-to-4 weakness to resistance ratio, and those 6 weaknesses being double weak to fighting, double weak to steel, grass non-existent, but ground, rock, and water, like it just, powder snow, decent charging 4 energy. Weather Ball spam with Shadow, that got buffed this season up to 87 at 10-8. A good spam for 86. Meteor Beam is a nuke, and it only takes 16 to get to, and you're nuking, right? It's 173 damage. Landing 173 damage moving 16-14 is fantastic. If it was a different typing, because its stats are decent too. It has really high stamina. Defense is a bit weak here, but really, really high stamina. So you're at that like 2,000 overall. The problem is, this thing would be a beast if it didn't have these 6 weaknesses, but it does, so it just kind of limits its ability to play. Claydol, Feraligatr. I mentioned Feraligatr. Feraligatr's still going to have play, but I think Empoleon's just the better version of Feraligatr this season, quite honestly, just because of that steel typing picking up so many resistances. Claydol I have not liked from the start because of that psychic typing. And again, I talked about if you only have 1 or 2 typings, you better offset it with resistances. But unfortunately here we're looking at a 6-5 weakness to resistances. And again, those 6 are very bug got buffed last season. So it's a lot of bug, dark, ghost, water in the meta. Maybe we see more ice this season because of the dragons too. So is it usable? Sure. Is it one that you need to build up? I don't think it's going to be any sort of top meta. Tinkatuff, no, like use Tinkatong. This surprised me. You got the Shadow Dusclops at 63, and you have the non-Shadow Dusclops at 75. And I was trying to go through my head what is happening with Dusclops, because Dusclops was a top 10 Pokemon last season. Let me just make sure I'm in the Great League. Am I going crazy here? No, I'm in the Great League. Dusclops, is Dusclops an XL in the Great League too? 45? No kidding. So Dusclops was a top 10 Pokemon last season. It has Ice Punch, which would be great against the dragons that just got buffed. You have Hex and Shadow Punch, which can hit neutral in a bunch of situations. You have normal typings, which actually took a little bit of a hit this season. Well, Wigglytuff did not take a, but Diggersby took a nerf because Scorching Sands got nerfed. And then Ferret is down here at 100 because you're expecting a lot more steals, and Swift and Trailblaze that's resisted by steel. So suddenly the normal typing that is resisted all the time is not there as much. Dark, there's some Dark on here, but Dark got scared off a bit last season with all the bug buffs. And now you've got Charms buffed here. So I think Dark's going to be a little scary to use at times too. So when I saw Dusclops down at 75, I was pretty confused. 20, like its average is bad, but its average was bad last season too. So like, let's just take a look at the rankings. Yeah, there's gonna be more Guzzlords, sure. And Wiggly, there's Wigglies last season too. I don't even think the Shadow Scizor is right because I remember playing. Maybe it's the Shadow Dusknoir that does. Maybe that's why the Shadow Dusknoir is higher. Maybe the Shadow Dusknoir takes out Scizor in 2, like a shield, and then take 3, as opposed to Scizor taking it out in 3. But yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe more Bastions and Carbinks, and now these are higher in the ranked on the list, that its average goes down. Because you got to remember, if you don't know this, PvPoke's ranking here is based on even shield, even energy, 1 shield scenario. So what it does, and the rankings also adjust to a certain extent based on how you play against the top meta. So if they sort of sim it and this is a top meta, if you beat these sort of top 10s, you get a little bump in the rankings, and if you don't, you get lower in the rankings. At least I'm pretty sure that's how it is. Yeah, so I'm surprised Dusclops. This is one that I don't think is true. I think Dusclops is still going to have a lot of play in the meta. There's, again, if I'm missing something, please drop it in the comments below. But my initial thinking was like, outside of Wiggly, for sure Wiggly's going to be an issue. But Normal's down a bit. Dark's been down. Has Ice Punch for Dragons. Has the bulk. Has the spam. None of these moves, Hex, Ice Punch, or Shadow Punch, got nerfed. So I don't know. This one really confused me. Fortress, I talked about in the top 50. Hackmo, again, there's no reason to use Hackmo when you have Como with Clanging Scales. So why would you use something with Rock Tomb? Well, I mean, Rock Tomb's not bad, but, Rock Tomb's only 80 here, and Clanging Scales at the same is like 160 or something. So just use Como. Dragonite, I mentioned in the top 50 how dragons are better if the non-shadow versions and Pokemon with charge moves and can take moves are the more successful dragons because of the Dragon Breath buff, because now you're treating it more as a okay damage move that gets to your charge moves faster, whereas Shadow Dragonite, Shadow Dragonair relied a lot on that Dragon Breath damage, where you basically treated it like a fast move damage Pokemon that would then just kind of chip and finish off with your charge move, but you really focus on the Dragon Breath damage. But now you're not focusing on the Dragon Breath damage, you're actually focused on getting into your charge moves quick. And don't get me wrong, Superpower Shadow here does 102 and 10, so it's a good move, but you're just like very, very, very glassy in the Great League. So I think the other dragons are probably better. Kingdra, yeah, plays a bit different with Swift, but same thing. I just think there's other dragons you probably, and Zweilous, right? So all the dragons are going to be the same. How they play, you're now, when you look at a dragon in general, because like the top dragons up here are Regidrago and Guzzlord. When you look at a dragon, you basically need to look at a couple things. One, you can look at their secondary typing to see if there's like a secondary weakness. Otherwise, the typing stays the same. So you're really only looking at stats and moveset, like what charge moves. And now those stats kind of always matter to a certain extent, but charge move now takes higher priority than the stats used to, because you can get away with the Shadow Dragonite with insane Dragon Breath damage with that super high attack. Not so much anymore. Now you're kind of focusing on these Pokemon that have these like higher stamina, higher defense, not higher defense here, but higher stamina on this one. Same with Guzzlord. They're like mirrors almost, with insane movesets. And here we are, 12 turns to 120 Dragon Energy, right? So when you have the stats with the move, it's a better combo than some of these other dragons down here. Are these dragons down here unusable? Of course not. You can definitely use them. I think the other ones are better. Annihilape, I'm positive I did it in the top 50 as a shadow. Yeah, the shadow version is better for the counter damage and the Rage Fist, boosting that attack. So yeah, Annihilape will be very useful. Shadow Feraligatr, I kind of mentioned there. Malamar was in the top. Metang. So some of these were in the top, like Malamar, Metang, Grumpig. I've already talked about them in the top 50 because actually not Grumpig, but some of these other ones I talked about in the top 50. So you can check that out. Grumpig again has that psychic typing, which I don't love. 3 weaknesses to 2, 3 Yeah, 3 weaknesses to 2 resistances, and the resistances are fighting, which there's some, but then psychic, which there's not a lot of psychic in this meta, but there is a lot of bug, ghost, and dark. So when you have like those 3 right away, your 2 moves are non-stab. They're good moves. They're 90 dynamic punch for 12 and 100 shadow ball for 14. So they're not bad moves, but I just think with your typing, it just kind of fell off, and it was super, super relevant for one season, and then the bug got buffed, and then it just kind of killed Grumpig. Sableye, yeah, Sableye becomes a little bit scarier to, like, not scarier, but maybe worse to use with that dark typing, right? Because now you're weak to all the fairies that are going to start showing up. It was already borderline at best. Again, maybe some of the outside of fairies, maybe some less normal, so the claw is a bit better. But I think it should play pretty similar to last season. Altaria, again, I just think the other dragons are better. Altaria should be strong, though. Altaria is kind of an interesting one, now that I think about it. I think it's just because the Skytack's still 90, and Flamethrower is 92 at 13 and 14. But Altaria has so much bulk, right? 151 defense and 138 stamina. It just has so much defense and stamina. I'm actually surprised it's ranked this low. I think if I had to give my best guess, you're probably going to see a lot of Altaria. And the reason you're going to see a lot of Altaria is because a lot of people, if you've been playing since the early seasons, talk about a Pokemon that's been meta since the beginning. Altaria has been meta from the beginning. It's the dragon, which is also with a flyer, and flyers are hurting the meta, right? So unlike the other dragons, this has a flying secondary typing, which helps at time to stuff like ground, right? There's going to be a lot of ground in the meta, so you double resist that as a flyer. There's going to be bug in the meta, so you resist that as a flyer. So there's fighting in the meta, so you resist that as a flyer. So that flying secondary typing helps a lot on this Pokemon, and at the same time, insane bulk. And these charge moves are not bad, right? So I honestly think I actually think Altaria is underranked. The more I think about it, I think you're going to see a lot more of Altaria than you expect, than is ranked here. Samurott, again, Feraligatr, Blastoise. Well, actually, I prefer Blastoise a lot more than Samurott. For me, there's no point of using Samurott when you have, because it's a really weird in between. You have like your Glass Cannon Greninjas. You have your Shadows in Empoleon. That's now like one of the top ranks. You have a Feraligatr, which is ahead of you here, that just hit a lot harder. And then you have Blastoise on the other end, which is fantastic because it is just so bulky that you still have the Hydro, but you can like take more damage. And Samurott just kind of fits in the weird middle. It's not bulky at all, but it's not like Glass Cannon-y attack heavy enough to really make a difference. I never liked using it. It does have the Fury Cutter, which again, Fury Cutter is resisted by like 6 typings, so I don't think there's a point for Samurott. Scizor, use the Shadow. Dragonair or above, use the Shadow. Lugia. This could be just like a fun one. Psychic Flying. It does get to Acrobatics in 18 here. So 18 is still a bit slow. Does have some bulk, 127 and 167 here, but 18 is a little slow. I think it's going to be maybe bait dependent, but if you want to have some fun with Acrobatics, do you need to build it? No. Shadow Quagsire. I think this one's underranked, and I think it was underranked last season, and it showed in the Play Pokemon Championship. Really, really high stamina. So you already got a lot of HP, not a lot of HP, but a good amount of HP behind you. Only one weakness, Grass. Grass is non-existent. We've already gone over this. There's only one Grass type in the top 100, so you really don't have many weaknesses you need to deal with. You have a lot of ground that I expect there. So Aqua Tail does super effective. Mudshot would be super effective on the steals. And then you have this Stone Edge for your dragons and your flyers for your coverage. I think Quagsire is underranked. I think you're going to see a decent amount of Quagsire. I think it's going to be kind of a sneaky pick to beat a lot of these Pokemon. And just generally in neutral matchups, it should do pretty well against some of those like buff Pokemon like Wigglytuff, right? So yeah, Stuffer Water's resisted on the dragons. You still need to land a Stone Edge, so it's going to be kind of tricky. But as you go more towards the middle here, right, you got your just like other water Pokemon that are like you need to land a Stone Edge. And and then you're probably beating. Yes, you got some wins against. We'll ignore like the fires and the ground, like the rocks. Like you should beat those. Um, where is Diggersby on? Not Diggersby. Wiggly 347. Yeah, Wiggly's gonna be a tough one this season, just because it spams so quick. So just what the Swift takes you out here. Holy smokes, Wiggly is gonna be. If I'm building a team, which I'll do team building on Tuesday here, I'm probably building against Wigglytuff pretty early. I think it's going to be a really strong Pokemon. That being said, I think Quagsire still has a lot of play in this meta, especially when you start. If you get like a Mudshot or 2 advantage too, you can do pretty well. Togetic again. Other fairies are probably better now. Galarian, like the Fairy Wind users, it was really cool to get that Fairy Wind buff, and it's very strong. That buff, but I just think there's better fairies now, quite honestly. Cradily, yeah, it's one of the only grass. I think it's going to have a lot of play just on that fact alone. In fact, Cradily with Bullet Seed, right? The meta is starved for grass right now. Just like for the last like few seasons before some of these flyers came in, we were starved for flyers before we got like Galarian Moltres, and then they rebuffed Gligar and stuff. So I think we're in need of grass, and I think Bullet Seed is probably now the go-to because of it. So Cradily could be back as like the safe swap with that Bullet Seed. Rock Tomb did not get nerfed, right? So you still have that same type attack bonus. Only 12 to get to, 96 damage, and lowers your opponent's attack, right? So I was talking about like 100 move in that 10 range, being 96 and 12 and lowering your opponent's attack. Like right off the bat, you could tell like that's a solid move. And then the 140 defense, 144 stamina, it has everything going for it. Except for maybe the weaknesses here. Yeah, you felt the steel weakness with so many Scizors this season, and the bugs and the fighting, right? This is you want to know why it's downgraded? Fantastic stats, quick charging, 4.33 energy per turn, 12 turns to get to a 96 move that guarantees slow your opponent's attack, or you can throw at the same 108 damage move for Grass Knot. Four weaknesses to only 2 resistances. Yes, there's some electric, but there's barely any normal type moves that you're gonna be thrown. Like Body Slam got rebuffed, Skull Bash. Like there's not a lot of just normal type moves. So you're resisting like the Denes and Morpekos and stuff, but then you're hello all the fighters and all the steals, and there's gonna be more steals this season. There's gonna be more ice this season. There's bug that got buffed. So yeah, it's the typing that kind of killed Cradily here, but I think it's gonna. I still think it's strong. Dunsparce got a double nerf a couple seasons ago. Rollout got nerfed, and then Rockslide got nerfed. So Rockslide is back on. It buffed up again, so it was always 12-9, 12-9 to the charge moves. Drill Run is still better, but actually at this point it's almost negligible. It's only 5 damage more, so at the same count. So what makes Dunsparce frustrating at times is, so it's really quick and spammy for sure. Why I always keep mentioning that like 100 damage, because 100 damage and 100 damage will take out 95% of the Pokemon in the Great League. 80 damage and 80 damage for 160 with only 2.33 for rollout probably doesn't take out like 30-ish% of the Pokemon that you're going to see in the meta. All these like Diggersbees and Lapras takes super effective from Rockslide, but like there's just Blastoise and stuff like that. There's too many bulky Pokemon that you're not going to be able to take out with 2 Drill Runs here, and it's the non-stab of it all. Rollout, you don't get same type attack bonus. Drill Run and Rockslide, no same type attack bonus damage on these. So that's why it feels a little underwhelming at times. That being said, good stats and only 1 weakness and only 1 resistance. So just cover that fighting weakness. And yeah, again, you've probably seen Ferret a million times this season. So Dunsparce was the Ferret before Ferret existed. Yeah, Crustle, Golisopod. You know, when you see Golisopod down here, you just need to go through your head. There's certain Pokemon, and have we even talked about Drapion? Is it in the top 174? You should already be going in your head. Actually, I'm going to talk about Drapion in a minute here. Actually, I'll just talk about it now. these Pokemon that are considered safe swaps: Feraligatr, 60 and 71, Drapion down at 174, Golisopod at 92. They're ranked so low because of what I said, how PvPoke sims them in the even energy, even shield scenario. You're not going to play these Pokemon that way. You usually play them with advantage. So Drapion, you know, you go to the Great League and it has a 17 and 38 record. 17 and 38 record is absolutely terrible. Okay, let's give it one Poison Sting advantage. You come in as a safe swap and you do one Poison Sting. You just picked up 10 wins. Now, let me just reset that just to show you how much of a difference that makes in this meta. You had a 17 and 38 record with a 464 average. You safe swap this thing, you get one Poison Sting advantage, which one is the minimum you're going to get. Sometimes you're going to get 2 and 3, so we'll do that in a second. But even just with one Poison Sting, you're upping your wins by 10 and your average at 506. So if you had these rankings based on this, where's Drapion going to be? It's not going to be at 147. So this is why you always need to take the PvPoke rankings with a grain of salt. Like, you need to use logic around, like, why are they ranked the way they are? And Drapion and Golisopod and Feraligatr are always ranked lower because you're not going to be using them like that. You're going to be using them like this, with a shield advantage, not shield, like, yeah, sometimes with a shield advantage and then sometimes just with an energy advantage. 2 shields get you up, 2 Poison Stings get you up to 33 and a 555 average. Like 555 average is very, very high with a 2 Poison Sting advantage, right? So yeah, these Pokemon are going to play way, way better than they're ranked. Don't for a minute think that Drapion is going to be gone in this meta. I had thought potentially about Drapion with Sludge Bomb. Aqua Tail and Crunch. Aqua Tail and Crunch is just the very obvious moveset, right? There's a ton of ground in this meta and you're weak to ground, so you want to cover that weakness. You need the bait move. You don't need the bait move. Crunch is only 10, so you don't need a bait move, but it's nice to have that bait move to, because Crunch is very threatening. Like, again, I mentioned the Blastoise example. You're going to hit well over 50% of Blastoise with that Crunch. So it's one of those moves that like really scares people. So if you can like bait that with an Aqua Tail, and then if you just need to like quickly spam a move at the ending, if you're going to go down, Aqua Tail will chip and gives you the coverage for the ground. That being said, if we're expecting a lot of fairies, and I know Azumarill is going to see a lot more play this season too, safe swapping Drapion with something like Crunch, Sludge Bomb is going to potentially catch a lot of people off guard. Like, you're going to get a lot of the Azumarills coming in knowing that they can resist Aqua Tail and Crunch, and then if you catch it off guard with a Sludge Bomb, it's going to flip a lot of matchups. So again, I don't think it'll even sim better. I don't think it'll play better for the majority of the time, but it is an option that you need to think about given the state of where the meta is going. Crustle I just kind of glossed over because there's nothing sort of new and exciting with it. Pharaoh, again, I don't think it has a drill run though, so that's kind of interesting. But again, you're not even a glass cannon. You only have 131 attack, lower defense and stamina, but not enough attack to help you out here. Yeah, and then the moves just aren't enough. You're sitting at that quick spammy 10 and 12, but sitting at that 84-80 range. Drill run's nice coverage, but unfortunately, I just don't think there's going to be a ton of play with that. Ferret, I get why Ferret is down here at 96. You are going to have more fairies this season where Sucker Punch is resisted. You are going to have more steals this season where Swift and Trailblazers are resisted. So I understand why it has fallen. We'll see. We'll see how it actually plays out in practice. We'll see how the meta adjusts. Because against the Dragons, like, Sucker Punch Swift is probably going to be fine against the majority of Pokemon. And I guess Diggersby got nerfed, and with the Trailblaze, you would have beat that too. So I think it just kind of it probably doesn't sim as well against the top meta. Ferret, like, my first thoughts on Ferret is it doesn't sim as well against the main meta this season, given the increase of steals and fairies and the decrease to like Diggersby. But I still think in practice it's going to have a lot of play. So I don't think you're gonna not see frets. I think you're gonna see a decent amount of them. Gudra, yeah, again, Dragon Breath, getting to the charge move faster. Unfortunately, the charge moves are a non-stab Aqua Tail and a non-stab Thunder Punch. Just does not make Gudra one that you really need to build. Kind of already went over those. I'm trying to see if there's like any other Pokemon in that's out here that, you know, may have play. Magar goes running Ember now. Interesting. So this would change how it plays. Is that even the better way to play? Honestly, I don't know. You're giving up half, you're gaining half an energy, so you're going from 4 to 4.5, but you're giving up 2.4 damage per turn. I understand the complexities of a 5-turn move and timing and catching and stuff like that. So you're getting, why it probably sims better is because you're getting to these Rock Tombs in 12 and to an Overheat in 14 instead of 15, right? So you're just getting to the move faster. So it probably sims a lot better. We'll see. And again, we have to confirm that it is 4.5 and not 4 on Ember. I really hope it is. Galarian Moltres, again, you should be able to see why some of these Pokemon have fallen. There's going to be more fairies. Galarian Moltres, much like Ferret with the Sucker Punch, is not going to, and this one's actually dark, is not going to have is not going to have a good time against the fairies. So it's dropped a bit. Again, in a meta that's kind of low on flying. Right? We got some weird ones in here. Which like like 3 of these flyers here are also weak to fairy. So yeah, this is gonna be a interesting meta. Okay. Anything else down here that's just kind of popping out at me? I know Toadscrew, a lot of people liked it. Again, I don't think it plays much different. You still have your Mudslap user. It still has really nice defense and stamina. I've tried it and I was like, oh yeah, this thing actually can take a lot of charge moves. Seed Bomb and Rep are not good moves, but the Mudslap does so much damage that if you wrap and lower their defense, you can just combo that. I've seen it run with Earth Power too. It does take 18 to get to Earth Power, so a little slower, but and it's a grass, right? And we don't have a lot of grass. So having a Seed Bomb grass to cover that ground and water, I think you're probably going to see some Toadscrolls next season. Castform, how fun. Yeah, there's some weird ones down here. Sea King. A lot of people said they were really excited about Sea King. So Sea King gets Peck. First of all, now instead of being triple legacy, it's still just double legacy, Drone and Icy Wind. But the difference between Poison Jab and Peck is the energy here. So now you're getting a 4 energy move instead of a 3.5. So you're getting to the Drones and Icy Winds in 12s. Again, it's only 80 and 60, so I don't think it moves the needle. But I know some people were excited about it, so I just wanted to mention it. Why are we running Shadow Claw on Giratina down here? 24 and 31 with a 458. I think more people are going to use Dragon Breath. 24 and 31 versus 30 and 26. Yeah, PV Poke, what are you doing? This one doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know why you wouldn't use Dragon Breath at this point. I think they're actually similar stats, if not the same stats. Yeah, so I'll tell you why I'm surprised about this play. I think maybe PV Poke assumed because we're going to have so many fairies in this meta, it makes more sense to run Shadow Claw. Potentially more fairies also equals less dark. So Shadow Claw, and with the normal typing nerf, like normal type Pokemon sort of lower this season, Shadow Claw is going to have a lot more play than potentially Dragon Breath because there's going to be a lot more Steel and Fairy. So the Dragon Breath and Dragon Shadow Claw actually do the same energy and same damage. It's just, is it really the 1 versus 2 turns that allow you to pick up that much? The only thing I was going to say about about Dragon Breath is, I I think it's just those two that resist Dragon. I think it's just Fairy and Steel are the only two typings that actually resist Dragon. And then you hit neutral against everything else. And if there's going to be a ton of dragons, you might want to also hit super effective against them. So I don't know. Either way, you're still spamming these Dragon Claws at 12 here. 12 and 11. So I think Giratina is going to have some play. You may see it with Dragon Breath. You may see it with Shadow Claw. Just be aware of that. Outside of that, is there any Pokemon in the... Yeah, Blastoise, same thing. Like, I understand why water may go down a bit, because if you're truly seeing a bunch of dragons, water resists dragon. Nope, dragon resists water. So I understand why they could take a bit of a drop. And same thing, I've been using Blastoise this season as a safe swap. If you saw my legend or not legend run, I'm going to post a video on probably Sunday, whether I hit legend or not. Blastoise is on the team. It was very, very strong for me this season. So it's another one of those I'm just like, I think in play, it's probably going to play a bit better there. Dragalge back with Dragon Tail. Talk about a Pokemon that's been all over the place. But now Dragon Tail is even better than Acid. 15 to an Outrage. And it's saying to run Sludge Bomb here, though, eh? Yeah, Aqua Tail Sludge Bomb. It only takes 9 to get to an Aqua Tail, so I understand it. It's your bait move. Cover bait move. Aqua Tail is such a garbage move. And now you have no fast move damage breath with that damage, so it's going to take like 3 Aqua Tails to take out. Or it takes a 15 move Outrage and then a little Aqua Tail bait at the end there worth 9. But still, that's like 24, and then versus like something like a Drapion, which is 10. So maybe it has play, maybe not. Yeah, there wasn't any. I'm just going to go down the list and see the names here. I am interested in Lickitung. I know it's not fully back, but I'm really interested in it. Lick isn't even that good a move. Is it truly the stats that carry this thing? Yeah, 186 stamina, 127 defense. For those of you who are, again, newer to this channel or just newer to Pokemon Go, Lickitung was the best safe swap in the meta for like 4 or 5 seasons. And then Body Slam got nerfed, and it got a half buff back. So it's not fully back, but it's back a bit. And you do get same type attack bonus on it. Now, it's still just not a great move, 66 damage. You do have Power Whip, but it's still 90. Like, it doesn't hit hard. And even Lick doesn't do the damage, but man, could you take a lot of damage with your stamina defense combo here. And we do kind of need some normal typings. I don't know. I think I'm going to try Lickitung again this season. I don't know if it actually will play much better. But it does, to me, I understand Bison got nerfed, and it's still not fully back, but it still seems crazy that the number 1 ranked Pokemon with only now what is a very small buff to Body Slam is still ranked so low, when there's still going to be some ghosts out here, even though you have no, well, depending on the ghost, you can throw a Power Whip. So that's what I'm going to try probably still. I don't see any other Pokemon jumping off the screen here. Dugong's down. Is this one that probably sims a lot better too? Dugong. This, I do not understand the the rankings compared to the like, here we are in the 1 shield, even energy scenario, and we have a 28 and 26 record with a 486 average. Why are we ranked so low? Unless, and that's exactly why, you know what? I'm so right. Sorry. We are ranked so low because we are losing against the top 10 Pokemon here in Carbink and Bastion. And because we're losing to them at like a pretty bad pace, because they're so highly ranked, it adjusts our overall ranking. But, you know, 28 and 26 record, 46 average, sometimes, again, used as a safe swap, get a nice shard through. It's looking pretty good. So, again, Dugong, I think, is one that's probably very, very underranked, especially in a meta that's going to have a bunch of dragons. So, Dugong at 170 seems crazy to me. Drapion at 174, also, as I mentioned, Not even close. That is crazy. A lot of people were mentioning Venusaur this season, not because it got buffed, but because the other grass Pokemon got nerfed. Aerial Ace got nerfed. So that is why, not Cradily, sorry. Where are you? You are really far down. It's easier to search by your name here, Jumpluff. Jumpluff is down to 213 and Superior is down to 337 because Aerial Ace is a slower move now. So you're not even getting to like this bait move quick. Like it's now the same energy as Frenzy Plant. Like put that in perspective. Aerial Ace at 60 damage is the same energy as Frenzy Plant on 120 damage. So you're never ever I don't think you're ever throwing it. Even a resisted Frenzy is going to do way more than an Aerial Ace. But again, a lot more dragons, so grass is useless. And so many more steals now this season. So we had a buff to, there were some steals last season, but Bug got buffed last season, Poison got buffed last season, and now Fire gets buffed this season, and Dragon gets buffed this season, and there's going to be more steals this season, and there's going to be more ice to deal with the dragons. Poor grass. And this is coming from someone who always made fun of his brother for picking Bulbasaur in the Pokemon Red and Blue. I always went Charmander, but I can definitely go Squirtle sometimes now too. But anyways, because grass is so... Is there a point to all this besides rambling? Because grass is so sort of devastated, I think a lot of people were thinking about Venusaur as the new go-to Frenzy Plant user because you just lost your Superior. And if you want that Frenzy Plant that just does so much damage so quickly, having a Venusaur that has like, okay, like not amazing, but like okay stats with that 120 damage Frenzy Plant coming at 12, having a Sludge Bomb probably, or Sludge. Running Sludge now, okay. Quicker move, Sludge. That is actually a bait move because it's the first one is at 10. Actually, first and second are at 10. Then you have a bait move that still hits 84. It's not a bad option. It's not a bad option in a meta that should have a lot of water and ground. And it's going to have steel, ice, and dragons too. But, you know. Just something if you're looking for sort of off-the-board ranking Pokemon that could also have play. I think that that one is one that you need to potentially keep your eye on. Now we're getting into some very niche stuff here. Although is Charger Bug really niche? But again, I think there's just better electric to use, and electric is also resisted by. That's what makes Dragon so tough. Let's just put in a pure Dragon so we can just see Dragonair. This is what makes Dragon so tough. Electric, fire, grass, and water are resisted, and you know there's a decent amount. And again, there was not a lot of Dragon, Fairy, and Ice before the season. I think there's gonna be a lot more of those now. But you know, water's been meta since early seasons. Fire's picked up in the last couple seasons. Electric has picked up in the last couple seasons. So Dragon alone, just kind of resisting all those, is definitely gonna have some play. Yeah, I don't know if there's any Pokemon in like the top 200 here that I'm missing just based on this list. There's nothing jumping off the top of my head here. Talonflame is down at 223. That seems insane. I get it. More Charmers out there, but again, more water, more steel. I think Talonflame is underranked here. I really think Talonflame is underranked this low. Ooh, it's a really bad average, eh? Oh yeah, there's more rock. Crap. There's more Carbink and Bastiodon this season, and you are double weak to rock. I forgot about that. That's why you're so bad. And then all the dragons that resist, and all the water Pokemon that we expect to. Yeah, that's a lot of hard losses for Talonflame. That is why you are ranked so low. Again, I still think it'll have play. I think the Shadow version's probably better. No, it's not even better. Wow. Yeah, I mean, if you get against a Bastiodon or Carbink, you're basically cooked. They're just farming down and coming out with like 100 energy and well over 50% health. So that's a tough situation to get back. Unless you do like an ABB style team have like a Gastrodon in the front and have, I don't know, Typhlosion, Turtonator maybe? Have a Turtonator? No. Ninetales with an Overheat, just, yeah, that's the problem with Magikarp maybe with some Rock Tombs and Overheat. I don't know. You can try and do like an AB style team to try and draw out one of these Bastiodons and then punish it with a Gastrodon and then have your Talonflame roam free if you want. But yeah, or just lead it and have 2 covers in the back for your rock weakness and water weakness and to cover. Dragons you can kind of stand and threaten a Brave Bird though, so it's that those you don't need to run away from, but the other ones you need to run away from to a certain extent. Yeah, I think that's basically all that's jumping off the top of my head here. We're getting into really, really, really niche stuff. Shadow Drifblim's at 249, really? I guess when you have Dust Noir, there's not really a point to run Drifblim. Okay, so those are the ones outside of the 50. Again, I think the very obvious ones are the ones that are just safe swaps, that are just not simming well. And some are simming well, but they just aren't highly ranked like Dugong. But, you know, Dugong and Drapion and all those are very good. Yeah, I expect to still see a healthy dose of, not a healthy dose, but Toadscruel will have play. Quagsire down here will have play. So there's definitely some Pokemon in the top 100 here, and maybe even outside the top 100. The question is, does this meta become more open or not? So I haven't even shot the video yet because I'm waiting to play. I'm shooting this on Friday to go up Monday. I'm at 2880. I was at 2975, and then I went 2-8, and I can only describe it as going against 9 legends who hard countered me, and those 9 legends decided they want to play like they're in the championship game of the Play Pokemon Championship, just trying to beat me as best they can. So I was 2975, dropped to 2-8 there to go to 2888. So I'm 2888 heading into Saturday. So I'm going to post a video on Sunday whether I hit legend or not. And in that video, what I'm going to talk about, if you want to watch it, because it's probably in that video, is the state of the meta was the biggest issue. And it was in Yonkis's video when he took it till 5 days before the end of the season to hit legend. This was the #1 ranked player in GBL in the world. And not just like he hit #1 and then he went off. He was #1 for like weeks at a time in the early seasons of GBL. And there's like, I've talked about subscribers who are front page leaderboard players who did not hit legend or who were like slow to hit legend. And there's like regional champions who had not hit legends until the last week. And the reason that there's a lot of reasons, there's the 1 turn leg, there's just a bunch of things. But the go-to reason for every single person was the meta is too open. And you're kind of be like, is that even a thing? Can the meta be too open? Yes. The problem now is, in the last season anyways, there were 80 viable Pokemon, so you could not put a strategic team together, because even if you put like a strategic team thinking it was safe, you would see some Pokemon in the rank 80, 90, or 100 come out and just bulldoze through your team, because it's just like there's so many viable Pokemon. So the question, I go more in depth into that. So if you want to check that out, go check that out. The question this season is, are we going to see a tightening up of the meta to make it a little more confined, or is it truly going to be another 100 usable Pokemon this season? My initial guess is, I don't think it's going to be more open than last season. I think the way the meta is going, you're probably actually going to limit some of these other typings, which probably limits the meta a bit. Like I said, grass, pretty much non-existent. You have Cradily, it's getting in because of its rock and moveset. You have Toadscruel, which is getting mostly in because of its ground typing too. So grass is pretty much irrelevant. Although Bug just got buffed, it's going to have a little bit of a problem this season, in my opinion, because you have You know, Scizor is getting in, and Fortress and Scizor as your two, like, it seems like there's a lot of bug on that page. There's actually only 4 unique bug Pokemon in the top 100. Golisopod, Crustle, Scizor, and Fortress. Those 2 are listed. Scizor, Fortress listed twice. So there's only like, then you're down to like 90 at Crustle. Crustle is not going to be used. So really, Golisopod may be used. So you really only have 3 bugs in this meta. Because more Steel, which was this bug, and more Fairy, which was this bug. So all of a sudden, I think you just took off 2 typings. You're probably adding more. You're 100% adding more Fairy, 100% adding more Dragon. Because of that, maybe adding more Ice. So if I'm just doing this like logically, I'm like, okay, how many I'm gonna add maybe 1, 3, maybe like 6 more dragons this season than we had last season. In terms of steals, you're probably adding like Empoleon and Stunfisk and Sandslash. That's as far down as I go. So you're gonna add like 3 more steals this season. So like 6 more dragons, 3 more steals, maybe 1 or 2 more fairies. Carwinks will be a lot more. Doxspin will probably be used more. But the rest of these fairies are probably going to be the same. So you're adding like 2 or 3 more fairies. So the question is, okay, we just added about 10 Pokemon to the meta. What did we take away? We took away maybe Ferret down at 100. So we took away that. We took away Jumpluff for sure. That is out of that. Ghost. You still have all the usable ghosts. Dusclops, Dusknoir, Annihilape. Like these Pokemon in the 90s, 100s still have play. And a lot of those Pokemon else didn't have play before. I'm truly just going to go through. You added Fire. Now you have more Fire Pokemon that are usable. So you're adding Turtonator came in the Dragons, but you're adding Ninetales, which is more usable now. So at least that's 1 more Fire Pokemon up there. Is there any Water that got nerfed? No, Empoleon came up as a Water. More Empoleon this season. And Gyarados. And it's not like any of the, again, Blastoise is at 130, but I still think it's very usable. So I don't think any Water got nerfed. Are we just saying that this is just going to be a wider meta now? Darks. You added Murkrow. Galarian Moltres stopped. Again, Darks maybe. There's still some Darks. There wasn't a ton of Darks because a bug got buffed last season. Anyways, Psychic. There was never a lot of Psychic. Not a lot of Pokemon that were Psychic got buffed. I think we just added Pokemon to this. Maybe it is Water. Maybe we just. I'm just rambling at this point now. You're just going through this is my like live thought process. Maybe this is a wider meta. Maybe we're just going to see more Pokemon this season. Because we Rock, same amount. Yeah, I think. Which, if we're going to see more, that just means it's going to feel even more RPS than it was last season. You think you're going to have a team that works, and you're just going to find a hard counter too, right? Because just let's go through the steps. We're 100% Fairy, Rock here. Rock, Fairy, Dragon, all got buffed like crazy. What can deal with a lot of those? Steals. You still have your go-to grounds and waters in the meta. So maybe, yeah. And now fires are buffed. I don't know. I truly think this is gonna be like all over the place. I'm trying to think if I had to choose off the top of my head what the 3 safest Pokemon. Like if I think like, oh man, this meta is so wide open. I'm so scared of what I may see. What do I think the 3 safest Pokemon are? Empoleon's, in my opinion, number 1. Again, I don't even care how it sims. It actually sims pretty good. 28, 27, and a 519. I think it's going to be super safe, super strong. I wonder if it has like a metal sound advantage if it changes anything like crazy. Not crazy. 561 average is pretty high. So 1 metal sound gives you 561 average. So yeah, I think Empoleon is going to be very, very, very strong. you know, if we don't have any, if we don't have any grass and we just lost potentially some of the flyers, and again, a 2431 is whatever. The 504 average is more important, and you never use Marowak in the even energy, even shield scenario. You are using it usually with a mud slap advantage in the 2 shield scenario. So here's a mud slap advantage, 28 and 27, 565, and here it is in the 2 shield scenario, which is how I always say it's a 2 shield beast. I think you're going to see, like, I think Marowak's safe. I think you don't have a lot of flyers. You don't have a lot of grass. You have more steals. You're neutral against dragon and fairies. You can 2 shield your way through some of these water Pokemon, like Feraligatr and stuff. You'd hit super effective against Empoleon because it's steel. So Shadow Marowak and Shadow Empoleon, Shadow Marowak are 2 of my 3 that I think are just going to be super safe this season. Now, I'm not saying put these 3 on a team, because right now that's very glossy and seems like Pokemon that need shields too to like definitely dominate. Quagsire, I never find Quagsire safe just because of how much ground and water there is, and if there's more ice this season. I don't know about that. Lapras, Blastoise has felt so safe for me this season using it on my team, and Lapras seems like another one of those Pokemon that with Ice Beam is just going to be safe. And again, you can just see it in the distribution here. Yes, your Morpekos and Dedenes are going to kill you, obviously. But look at that, just like centered, pretty evenish distribution in the middle. That's what makes a safe Pokemon, right? You're going to be able to safe swap, and if you see more Pecker stuff, you're in trouble. But outside of that, you'll be able to just kind of chip and hang in there and stuff like that. So I think some of like those Pokemon off the top of my head are going to be like 3 that I think are going to be very safe. Azumarill's one that I also thought about like playing Hydro. Like I talked about thinking about playing Sludge Bomb on Drapion. I also thought about playing Hydro Pump on Azumarill if you're going to see a lot more steals. Play Rough Hydro Pump was a moveset that was used in a certain meta. I forget what the meta was, but it was one when there was a lot of steals and you needed that Play Rough for like other water Pokemon. So Azumarill with Play Rough Hydro has been used in the past. It's interesting that this Cradilly's at 24 with Acid. Is Cradily going to be safe this season too? 30 and 26 with a 515. Cradily could be safe, especially if you're thinking about less bugs. If you think bugs are going to be less because of all the rock and all the steel, that we think bug is going to go down. You just took out one of your like main weaknesses there. So Cradily is another one that could fit the bill there. Okay. I've somehow taken what was like a 30-minute video at one point and made it an hour. Okay. Anyways, hopefully you got some value out of that extra half hour. Anyways, let me know your thoughts on the meta. Again, go check out my first video talking about the top 50 Pokemon, and let me know your thoughts about anything outside the top 50. If there's a Pokemon that I missed that you think is strong, if anything that I said that you agree with or don't agree with, let me know which Pokemon you're excited to use tomorrow. Top teams on a bunch of these Pokemon that are new that you can use. So stay tuned for that. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. I think I mentioned that earlier, which is good because if you've made it 59 minutes, we know you are subscribed. So thank you for that. Anyways, that is it. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.